Hey gang, it's Karen here and welcome to this video, Your Body Type and You, 6 Factors for Success. So in this video, I want to go over the difference between one body versus another. This might explain why you're in the gym and you see somebody who is half your size and lifting twice as much, or you see somebody with a bigger peak to their bicep when you're lifting more. So we're all snowflakes, but how we're made up genetically is very, very different indeed. So our whole role is to understand our individual genetics, our morphology, if you want to call it that, and work on strengthening our assets and work on trying to understand and bring in our low sets. So basically, I want to go over 6 factors for you, and I have some pictures and stuff to show you along the way in this video. I'm going to keep it basic. I do not have a degree in kinesiology. I have a great understanding and I've had a keen awareness for 30 years on stuff that was never explained to me by any trainer or any coach. Even in my certification, it was not explained to me, the differences in body types. And I had to learn it the hard way, basically trying to overcome genetics that I didn't have, and it just didn't happen. And I was frustrated for years. So this is my way of helping you to understand where your limitations may be and where your strengths may be and how it all comes together. So when you're in the gym, you can understand and lift and showcase yourself with confidence. So basically, we're going to look at 6 different things. We're going to look at body type, fiber type, nervous system, tendon and ligament insertions, the main thing. Muscle insertions, also the main thing, and limb length, really important. So let's start with body type. So I'm going to refer to our first diagram. So basically in body type, we were taught this. Eons ago, we were taught ectomorph, endomorph, and mesomorph, and we still talk that. Ectomorph is the one who works really, really hard to try to gain muscle, but they're skinny, and they're the ones that can diet easily and lose weight really, really fast. They have a hard time holding on to weight and holding on to muscle. The mesomorph is the muscular one. That is the one that's naturally able to build muscle. They're the ones that we all wish we could be because they gain muscle fairly easily. It stays on the body. They don't seemingly have to work at it, although everybody has to work at something. The endomorph is in between. That's usually where we have more fat on our body. We tend to, genetically speaking, we may come from a family of larger people, and so that is part of our genetic makeup as well. And we gain weight easily, and we may have muscle under there. A lot of bigger people do, but you can't necessarily see it. I found that too limiting, so I like to look at body types, and a lot of us coaches now define it as this one. So in this one, we have 3 different perspectives depending on how the body is structured. So let's look at the alligator in the middle is the perfect, if you want to say perfect. It's the most evenly balanced body. This is where the upper body and the lower body are the same proportions. So basically, arm and leg length is bang on. The waist is not too high, not too low, and everything is in proportion. These generally make the best physique athletes because of their proportions, because physique athletes and competition is about symmetry. This would not pertain to powerlifting or strength lifting or any kind of other sports because, again, different genetics come into play. This would not make a great basketball player. So in our world of muscle development and trying to stay lean, it would be the alligator. They have short arms and legs, thick, wide chest. I would say short to average arms and legs, thick, wide chest. They're strong at presses, but they're weak at deadlifts, and that's pull-ups. Pull-ups and deads because of their body structure, because they have equal weight in the lower part of the body, and their arms are not unusually short. So the other one, let's say to the left, is the giraffe. So the giraffe has long arms, usually long legs, short torso, meaning they're high-waisted. That would be me. And we're weak at presses and squats. And I'll explain that as we move through this video, why that is. It's limb length, and it's at a disadvantage in this sport. It would be advantageous maybe in other sports, although I haven't found one yet. But it's a disadvantage in physique training and physique enhancement sports. The wildebeest on the right is long everything. So basically, they're strong at, these would be their runners, the basketball players. They have length, and that length is their strength. And they are usually weak at lifting because they have such long limb length. However, if you do get a wildebeest and you fill in that muscle, they are amazing to watch because they have long flowing muscles. One example would probably be Arnold. Arnold was a very tall guy. He tended to have a little bit higher waist, but he was tall and long legs and long arms. And boy, when he filled in muscle, he just overpowered everybody. He just towered over them physically and energetically as well. So if the wildebeest can put on muscle, it's just hard for them because they're so long limbed. Because if they're squatting, they have to go down probably another 24 to 36 inches deeper than, say, a giraffe or an alligator or a long-waisted person with short legs. We'll get into that in a little bit. So your body type, take a look. Are you aesthetically the similar length upper body and lower body? Or are you high-waisted with long arms? Or are you like a lanky person all over and very long limbs and tall? So it makes a big difference. The next thing we get into is fiber type, fast and slow. So if we look at our third slide, again, not to get too deep into it because this is not a kinesiology lesson, but we have type 1 and type 2 fibers. So in type 2, we have A and B. I won't get into that. But basically, the ones on the left, the slow twitch, are perfect for long distance running. They're oxidative, meaning they get oxygen so they can go for long bouts of time. So they contract slowly. These are the slow twitch, the red muscles fiber types. So they have a low force, so there's not a lot of force exerted. It's just about endurance. These are the same muscle fibers that come into play when you're lifting your fork to your mouth. You don't need force, you just need endurance. They're also the ones that come into play when you sit at the computer all day because, again, they can go on forever and ever. These are what the long distance athletes have an abundance of. The fast twitch on the right is what sprinters and weight training people have an abundance of, and these are the white muscle fibers. And so these are high force, meaning there's low endurance. They can't sustain. You can't sustain a squat for 5 minutes. A squat is explosive. There's high force. So these are the fast twitch. White are what weight lifters are hoping to have in their body. And those are the ones that help for short, explosive, non-oxidative, not necessarily anaerobic moves like a barbell curl, a squat, a bench press, a thrust, power. Of course, in the middle, you have the middle distance runner, and they kind of have a combo of both. So what you have when you're born is what you have when you're born. Now, there is some recent research that says we can move from white to red with certain trainings, but we can't go from red to white. So a weight trainer can learn to be a better endurance runner through certain training principles that will enhance the red slow twitch fibers in the body, but they can't go the other way. However, the science isn't solid on that just yet. There's still a lot of debate in the coaching and sports science world about that. So moving on to our next slide, again, this is just showing us that the fibers are bundled together, and this is a motor unit. So there's all these fibers within their individual capsules, and then those, of course, are all grouped within a single motor unit, which again are grouped to make a muscle. So there's a bazillion of these. And they are made up of red and white, and you don't get a say. They are laid out that way, genetically given, probably handed down from your parents. So I always say that I'm a fast twitch in my upper body, and I'm a slow twitch in my lower body. I'm a great endurance runner, but I can't build legs. But I'm great in upper body muscular development in my arms and chest and back, more so just because of how the fibers are built in my body. So I'm better lower endurance in the lower, and I'm better a bodybuilder in the upper body. It's just kind of the way I am. I'm kind of a dichotomy. You probably are too. So also what determines your ability to lift and build is also in tendon and ligament and muscle insertions, and we'll get into that next. So here we have just another insert on the motor unit, and this just shows the motor unit with all the fibrils, with the fast and slow twitch within those little fibrils, and they're all combined together to make a muscle fiber, and all those muscle fibers are then all grouped together within a motor unit. Now here's the deal, that motor unit is fed by the nervous system. So how responsive your nervous system is, how developed it is, how many of those little tendons are sitting on your motor unit to help fire is also genetically determined, but it can also be trained to endure and perform more with time. That is why we get better with time within our sports, because the nervous system is trained. So I always say our recuperative abilities and our ability to endure and recover is based on our nervous system. So the nervous system is truly the heart of it all. That's why I say if you're a woman over 40 and you're training in any kind of sport, do not leave it all on the gym floor. This is why things like CrossFit or high endurance athletes in certain sports, as female athletes, it makes me nervous because the nervous system will burn out. And you have to allow yourself to recover. You should be walking away from the gym with a little bit left in the tank. If you're not, you're going to burn out, especially as we age. And that's really, really important. And I learned the hard way that the nervous system is not just affected by physical stress like training, it's affected by mental, emotional, and spiritual as well, because the nervous system takes in everything. And I learned that when my son was diagnosed and I was at the top of my game. I was winning shows, I was eating well, and then he was diagnosed with a terminal illness, and my nervous system overreacted. I didn't stop shaking for about 6 months, and everything started to fall apart after that. I had no recovery. I couldn't even walk into a gym without being winded. I couldn't walk around the block. It was because my nervous system was impacted by the emotional stress of what I was going through. Think about this, when you have to give a speech, you start to shake. It's not because you're lifting weights, it's because you're thinking, you're scared, you're nervous. It's the same thing if you're in a flight, you don't like flying. I get it all the time, I start to shake. Also, environmental and food also affects the nervous system as well. So we really, really have to take care of it, because that is the key to our success for staying strong and progressing in the gym and maintaining a strong, supple physique and being able to keep our metabolism strong too. So, on to the next slide. Let's talk tendon and ligament insertions. This is really important, guys. So tendon, just in definition, tendon sews up bone to bone, or sorry, muscle to bone. So basically the tendon is just the end of the muscle where it's all raveled in together and it's all tightly wound, and then it inserts into the bone. So ligament is bone to bone. So you have a lot of ligaments, say in your lower back. You have a lot of ligaments in your feet. That's why when people have lower back issues or their back is sore, you don't stretch it out, because you don't want to stretch out ligaments. You can't stretch them out because you'll hurt them. Ligaments take way farther, longer to heal than tendons. And the reason for that is because, notice they're white and they're not part of the outer part of a muscle, so there is no blood supply to them. So when they're torn or ruptured, they take a long, long time because there's no blood or oxygen in that tendon, in that ligament. So it takes anywhere from 10 to 12 weeks or longer for ligaments to heal. Tendons, on the other hand, take about 6 to 8 weeks to heal in general. And you know this one if you pulled shoulder or knee, because depending on the part of the knee, of course, because there is a blood supply and you can nurture them a little bit easier. So tendons and ligaments are really, really important. Now, where they insert in your body is equally important to your success in the gym and how you lift and how much you can lift. So remember, the more you lift in general, the bigger the muscles, the more the shape and tone, but not necessarily so. That's why we change up a program with high rep, because high rep will also help to build tendon strength. That's why when I get women on a program, I keep their weights fairly low and get the reps in there, and I want them to get the volume. So if you're in the gym and you're running out of time, make sure you have the volume. Make sure you try to get through the whole workout, because that's building tendon strength and maintaining it. So there is something to be said for that. Now, insertions, let's take a look at this one. This is the bicep, and I know a lot of you guys have seen this one. This one's really, really important. So the bicep is a really great place to be able to visually see tendon tie-ins, okay? So where they insert. So the tendons on the left-hand one, the three-finger tendon, means the tendon is long. It goes from the, it's actually not within the crux of the elbow, it's actually on the other side in the forearm bone, and it ties into the bicep bone. And so what happens is, if you have a long tendon, you have a shorter muscle. And so we call this the three-finger tendon, which is what a lot of people are frustrated with when they have arm development. They have this big gap between the bicep and their elbow, and that's just genetics. Go to the right, you got the two-finger tendon, so it's a little bit shorter. Go to the right again, and you've got the one-finger tendon. This is where we have a nice, long, flowing bicep, and there's very little room, there's very little gap. And that is what is preferred in physique development. Although some people like the shorter one because they get more of a peak, but if you get the longer one, the longer genetics, and you can build a peak, then you've got an awesome arm. And what we want in the physique world, if you were to showcase yourself on stage, we like longer muscles with less tendon showing through. So we want that muscle to be full and long. So that's the beauty of the difference in genetics there. So if we move on, here's the so much distance. And this is what really bothers guys. And they're often trying to fill that area in, but they have no understanding of kinesiology or sports science. You ain't going to fill that in. It is what it is. That's tendon. You can't fill in where there's no muscle, right? So give it up and go on to something else. So again, it's the same one, just showing the biceps genetic test. How many fingers fit between your biceps and forearm? So take the test, guys. Take a look. So basically, you could say that this is generally speaking for your whole body, but not necessarily so. But generally, if you have shorter insertions like this, then it would stand that you would have the same in your legs and elsewhere. So tendon length, this is where tendons have a role, and their length determines their force and function. So on the right, we've got the calf tendon, and notice how long it is. It's longer. It's a longer tendon than any other tendon in the body. And if you have even longer than this diagram shows on the right, you're going to have a high ball for a calf development. And we talked about that when we looked at different calf development. Some people have a long flowing calf that seemingly goes right down into the ankle. Those are the calves that we love in the physique world. Other people have the short, chubby, stuck up high calf development, so the gastrocnemius is like a ball. That's because their tendons are super long, and the muscle inserts higher up. So again, that's genetics. A lot of black people have the higher, smaller calf rolled up at the top, and it really, you can't change it. So that is why a lot of trainers and coaches don't necessarily throw calf work in, because you can't really change the genetics. You can build them though, and you can strengthen them. They are part of a leg workout. So generally, I like to include it in a leg workout as a leg workout, and not specifically with the idea to build or change the shape, because you can't. So when you look on the left, you've got the arm tendon, the bicep tendon. So again, that tendon is just the end of the bicep muscle, and it's all wrapped around itself, and it creates a hard fibrous tendon that inserts into the bone. So it's fairly short. And the shorter the tendon, the less strength you're going to have. So if that tendon were to insert at a longer place where it says insertion of biceps, if it was to insert longer down that bone toward the wrist, you're going to have stronger lifts. And the reason is this. So if I can show you with a pen, if, for example, you're holding onto a pencil or a pen, and it's weighted at one end, right? And I'm holding on at the very end that weight is going to be harder to bring up as opposed to if I was holding it in the middle, right? I have more force because it's like a cantilever. I have more out this end. If you think about physics, going back to your physics day, I try to forget it as often as I can. But anyways, you have less, you have to move through time and space if you've got a weight on the end. So it'd be easier to bring up. Whereas if it's at the end, it's going to be harder to bring that weight up because you don't have a good fix on it. So it's the same with tendon insertion. So if your tendons are further down the bone inserted, you're going to make for a stronger contraction. If they're further up, you're going to have a weaker contraction because there's just not as much force you can exert. And that is biomechanics, and that's basic stuff. Again, that is predetermined in your birth and you can't change it. But that will show why often longer limbed people are not as strong. And shorter limbed people are stronger because not only do they have a shorter arm, for example, but they have shorter tendons, and so they can lift more, and usually they have a bigger peak because, again, think about a balloon. If you fill a balloon with water, you got the short stubby balloons you fill with water and they grow this way. The people with shorter limbs, they will grow this way. So if you're coming along and you're a long-limbed person, all of that has to be now pulled along the length of a longer arm. So you're going to have the same volume of water, say, in that balloon, but instead of your elbow and your wrist being here and here, your elbow and your wrist are now here and here. So that all has to be stretched out. So now you're going to have the same volume of water or the same muscle amount, but now it's stretched out over a longer continuum. So that is why longer limbed people are at a disadvantage strength-wise than shorter, and also their insertions with the tendons are much shorter because, again, you've got length, and so their insertion is going to be here as opposed to it could be further up the bone with a shorter arm. So again, it's all biomechanics, how you're built. So for me, I'm not a very tall person, but I have long limbs. So I have never been a strong lifter. It takes a long time for me to be able to gain muscle because all my muscle is spread out over an 18-inch arm versus a 12-inch arm, or a 36 length leg instead of a 24 length leg. So we'll look at that when we look at squatting and bench press, how limb length has a big say in how you develop strength-wise and physique-wise. So basically, when we look at muscle insertions, I showed you this one. Let's look at the calves here. So here we're looking at the calves. This is genetically determined. So this person on the left has high calf. The muscle is high, and they have a long tendon from ankle up into that calf. So they have a long tendon insertion. They have a short muscle insertion, and that is their genetics. The one on the right has a shorter tendon, and the muscles join the tendon much lower down the leg. So there's way more ability to build that calf muscle because of it. So again, that's just genetics at play. Let's look at muscle insertion. So now we're going into the muscle development, which again, muscle insertion is also saying the same as tendon because a tendon is just the end of the muscle. So you can kind of look at it interchangeably. So look at this one, look at the leg development. So the fellow on the left has, to start with, he has shorter legs, so there's less room between hip and knee. So he's got these massive legs, but he probably also has more type 2 white fibers in his legs than the guy on the right. That could be part of it too. But also the muscle insertion is higher up. So if you look at the quad sweep on the outside, it's higher up his leg, as the other guy has long insertions. So his muscle insertions on his leg goes further down. So again, just different development, different muscle fiber types, different insertions of muscle and tendon. If you look at this one, this is a lat. Now this is, I can't remember who this is, but he has a high lat development, which works against him in the physique world. What that means is the lats, of course, are the wings coming out the side. When you look at somebody like Arnold or Franco, those lats come right down into the lower waist. So they've got these huge long lats. They have low insertions, which is what you want in a nicely developed back. Notice how his waist is kind of hanging around on its own, and all you see are the erectors bulging out. It's like his body is two different things that they've pasted together, because his lats insert so high. Those wings that move into the ribs along the outer side are so high on his body, whereas the better developed ones, I don't think I have a picture of them, the better developed guys have lower lat insertions. All right, let's look at limb length here. So here's an example if you look at the bench press. So the lanky, long-limbed person, they bench press and they have more arm to move through space to start with. So they're probably doing 24 inches that they have to move it up into space. So it's further that they have to go than the one with the shorter arm on the right. We call Mr. Stubby. We say it lovingly, of course. And also when the bar comes down, as the bar is supposed to be hitting the chest for full contraction, on the left-hand side with the long-armed guy, the elbow has to go down below the body, and this opens the shoulder capsule up for possible injury. This is why for long-armed people, you would do better with a wider grip on a bench press, because that allows the elbow to stop and not go beyond the back. It shouldn't go below the back. The stubby person can push away, and they've got great leverage because they've got shorter limbs. They're only moving that bar probably 18 inches instead of 24. When it comes down right onto the sternum where it's supposed to come for a full contraction, and that elbow does not go any lower than it should, and the shoulder is not impinged at all. So again, body mechanics. So the person on the left with the long arms would not be able to press as much weight in a bench press as the person on the right. Limb length. This is really important when it comes to squatting, and this is something I learned the hard way. All of my coaches couldn't understand why I couldn't squat. I have a 34 inseam and I'm only 5'2", but everybody around me had either normal anatomically weighted bodies, or they were long-waisted and short-legged. They make superior squatters. For me, on the left, notice where I have to lean. I have to lean far over because of the cantilever effect. Those knees do go beyond the toe in a long-limbed person. I'm not talking long as far as tall. I'm talking long anatomically incorrect to your body, where you have a high waist as opposed to a regular waist or a long waist. So you have to look at limb length in relation to a purely perfect anatomical body. Are you balanced, or are you out of balance? So look at where your waist is. I have a very high waist. So for me, I gotta bend over. And if I don't bend over, my knees will go beyond my toes, which they naturally do anyway. So I can't keep them back, or I fall on my keister. I also can't go butt below knees, because again, I'll fall on my keister, and it's also hard on the back because my legs are so long. We can go into more detail on that some other time, but notice how much I have to bend over and how much I have to stick that butt out just to go to parallel. So the body's put in a really precarious position. So I only go to parallel or just short of. I never go below. So when they say ass to the grass, it depends on your body type, guys. The one on the right, short leg, long torso, he gets to sit up higher. His butt is not back as far. He does not have to bend over, which doesn't put undue stress on the lower back because he's more upright, because he has shorter legs. And so in this scenario, he could probably put his butt below knees or butt closer to the ground, because his body will allow him to, and he doesn't have to bend over and risk knees and lower back in the process. So again, very, very important. So when they talk about where should the bar sit on the back, I would ask a different question. Where would the bar sit comfortably according to your body dynamics and morphology in order to allow you to squat to parallel? Your body will naturally find that place. So don't worry about where the bar is placed. Worry about where it is comfortable for you to be able to do a decent squat, and that's where it's going to sit. So let's take a look at some body differences when we look at genetics and we look at body type, fiber type, nervous system, tendon and ligament insertions, muscle insertions, and limb length. These are all the things we looked at. So let's look at Dana Lynn and, oh my gosh, I can't remember the other girl's name. but she actually won out over Dana the following year. I was surprised that she didn't win, but Dana is so well known and such a good competitor. However, look at the difference in the bodies. Look at the difference. Let's start from the bottom up. Calf development. The girl on the right is so muscled. She has thick muscle bellies. She has low muscle insertions. Look at her quad development. Look at how it just pops out. She is built for development. Look at her bicep. Look at the peak. Look at her shoulder. She also has a shorter waist. Like Dana Lynn has a very long waist, so her chest, her boobs ride high on her body, and she can tend to be a little bit blocky. Let's look at another one of them. Here they are again. So Dana Lynn is number 2, and the other girl is number 1. And of course, the third girl came in third. Again, another whole body type, totally different. But look at the difference in the leg development. Look at the difference in the length of the body. They're both the same height, but look at how long Dana Lynn's body is as opposed to the other 2 girls that have higher waists. They're more anatomically correct. They have, in my opinion, better leg development. Dana Lynn in the middle tends to be sinewy. That's what she's known for. She's very sinewy, more male, I think, and her muscles don't pop as much. Look at the shoulder development on the 2 outer girls. Look at all the fibers. Look at the tricep development. Superior, just superior. So again, genetics, genetics, genetics. Here we are again with the same girls. Again, you can clearly see. Look at the biceps. Look at the abdominals as well. Look at the quad development. Look at the calf development. Just so different. Their posing is superb. And then again, same girls. Again, this is more clearly showing the midsection. Look at the difference in the bodies. Again, they're the same height. Actually, I think Dana's like an inch shorter, but she has a much longer waist, which I don't think is as appealing, and it's more blocky than the girl on the left. The girl on the left has superior glute and quad development. Her shoulders are punchier, her biceps are punchier. She has a more narrow waist. She did end up winning. After all, she is the Miss Olympia physique. So I hope that explains a little bit about different body type and why some people are stronger in the gym or they have different muscle development over you. The whole goal is to sort through and come to terms with what you have to offer, because we're all snowflakes and we're all different. And it took me a long time to come to accept the fact that I am not a gifted lifter. I don't have the physique. I don't have the shape for it, for sure. I tend to be blocky and high-waisted. I'm long-limbed. I'm not very strong. But what I do have is consistency, and I have conditioning. And that's always been my strong point, is the conditioning, because my body's genetics has the ability to get very defined and low body fat. And that has been my gift in bodybuilding, which served me well because they like conditioning. And I'm not so much of a shape girl. Now, shape in physique and figure is surpassing conditioning in some ways, and you've got some amazing shape. But that can be genetically determined from birth. And the IFBB pros that you see out there have the shape to start with, just like, you know, the basketball players have height and weight, and they're born that way. There's not a lot of Steve Nashes out there that can perform at under 6 feet and do well. He's an anomaly, but we're all gifted in certain ways. Endurance runners, sprinters, very different body type. One usually can't become the other. I think the most gifted athletes are the pentathletes that do 5, or the ones that do 10 events at any kind of Olympic sports. They're the ones that have amazing genetics. They have fast and slow twitch muscle fibers all over their body. They have great tendon and muscle insertions that allow them to be both flexible and strong and power at the same time as endurance. So again, we're all snowflakes. We're all built differently. Some things you can see visually, some things you can't. Some things are just a guessing game. But it might explain why you are at a different level than other people in the gym as far as development or strength. And strength does not always equate with muscle size either, guys. And that's been proven. Train for development and strength will come instead of train for strength and development will come. It all depends on your focus, but really the key to it all is consistency, and that is where the progression comes in. Okay, you guys, I hope this was helpful. Ciao.